Whose championship window slammed shut the tightest, the Boston Celtics or the Denver Nuggets? Giannis is set to meet with the Bucks later this week. Do they have a shot to convince him to stay? The conference finals are set, and we know one thing for sure. NBA parity is here to stay. Is that good for the league and for fans? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt, was the Thunder's Game 7 beatdown of the Nuggets more about Denver running out of gas or OKC finally hitting the gas?
It's always both. I will say it's more about Denver running out of gas. They were just, they were exhausted, and facing that Thunder team, I think, at home with so much energy, youth. I kind of wrote about this morning for Fansided that if you look at these teams, you realize that none of the teams that are remaining have an average age over 28 and a half. They're all under 28 and a half average years of age. And that's with Mike Conley's old behind still putting up good numbers on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, as much as I think depth is being talked about, we honestly might be in an era, man, where you got to be young, because you got to be able to be young enough to stay healthy. Maybe that's the trick.
Young legs. Speaking of youth and energy from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Haize. Hey, same question. What do you think? Out of gas or hitting the gas?
I may look young, but I think I may be the oldest one on this panel.
You're young at heart. You're young at heart.
But no, everything's feeling good right now, man. It's been a fun weekend. It's been great basketball to be watched, and I'm lost without basketball, as we were talking about before we started recording.
I know, no games.
See, I might be the youngest, but I look old as hell. So that's like the counter between me and Haize.
I'm not telling any of you my age. All right, let's say goodbye to Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, and the rest of the Denver Nuggets, who fought valiantly and sometimes on one leg to try and keep their dynasty hopes alive. But OKC, they proved too much, and now Denver is facing down a host of hard questions this offseason. Here's Swipa from Locked On Nuggets with more.
Michael Porter Jr., the bench, are they all good enough? Do they have enough to move forward and to win another title and to make improvements on where they are now, or are they going to stay complacent, because of cap situations or because of whatever? They have a lot of holes in the roster. I think that all showed up glaringly, and if they just had maybe two less holes, they could be on their way to winning another title this year. But I think that was the difference between winning and losing in Game 7 to OKC.
Matt, of the last two champions, Boston, Denver, who has the best shot of prying their championship window back open?
Well, Nikola Jokic doesn't have a torn Achilles, knock on wood, so I'm going to go ahead and say Denver here. Denver's facing the problem of Michael Porter Jr.'s contract, I believe, to be untradeable. I do not think they're going to be able to move it, but that's the only guy that the fans are going to want to move, right? This is always the problem, is when you need to reconfigure a roster, the fans are like, we got to make some trades. Who? Let's send our bad players out and get great players back. Okay, a better plan for them might honestly be selling high on Christian Braun. Christian was amazing this season. He had a phenomenal breakout in his first year as a starter. However, this is probably his peak value, and he's up next for a $30 million per year extension that he's likely to be in line for. I do not know if they can build with a $30 million contract for Christian Braun on the roster. They'll look at trades for Jamal Murray. They'll look at trades for Aaron Gordon. They'll look at trades for Michael Porter Jr. Gordon's going to be the hardest after this postseason run that he had, where he was absolutely incredible and the hero, but they're going to have to make some dramatic moves. It's going to be painful if they're going to get back in. They and the Celtics, Haize, I've been thinking a lot about this. They just need to take a gap year, man. You need to tell your stars, hey, Tatum, don't even worry about coming back. Take the entire year off. Jalen, get the surgery. Don't even worry about coming back. Joker, go backpack across Europe with your kiddos. Chill. We're going to tank. We're going to clear the books. And we're going to get loaded back up for a 2027 run. That, to me, is the only way that they're really going to be able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some tough changes that need to be made there, and to hear that Michael Porter Jr.'s contract's untradeable, man, that really does suck because that's probably the best ship to get that done. But they're going to face what a lot of teams are going to have to face this offseason, and that is looking at their salary, looking at where the place of their team is, where they see that place being as the West moves forwards and teams get better. There are a lot of talent coming to the West in just the draft alone. Can't wait to see what is going to happen with the trades there. Giannis could be coming out West, so. The Nuggets are going to be faced to have a difficult decision, but this is why I feel like you moved off the GM and head coach, right? You moved off that because you needed a new set of eyes to come in here, a fresh set of eyes, and make a determination on evaluating that roster. They made it a lot further than people gave them credit for after the coaching change. Now you got to see how you're going to build off of that. You still got Jokic, who's still great, still an MVP caliber player, and that's a better chip than a lot of these teams are starting off with.
Haize makes an interesting point there with Denver, possible coaching change. We'll see if they stick with Adelman and take the interim tag off. But, Matt, is that actually an argument in Denver's favor that they have the opportunity to pivot here, that maybe Missoula ball has run its course in Boston, but they won't be as apt to sort of move on to something else entirely, but Denver will be able to do that?
Yeah, a lot of it in the NBA is you got to kill your darlings, right? Like you got to be able to be willing to move on from players that you've been attached to. If you've drafted those players, if you've been around that team, if you have these connections, it makes it difficult. Now, I will say the Nuggets wanted to move Michael Porter Jr. and they got resistance from ownership. Josh Kroenke denied that at a press conference, but I'll stand by it. Like I heard from multiple people inside the Nuggets organization that the preference was strongly indicated that ownership did not want him traded before the deadline when his value was still higher. So this is kind of the key here is like, yeah, you can change up who's at the helm, but if the guy that owns the boat is still has his preferences on who's going to be in or off, that's going to make some big changes.
All right, let's go from teams that where windows might be closing to a team that is trying to burst through their window, the OKC Thunder. They won't get much time off before playing the Wolves on Tuesday, but our friends over at Locked On NBA Game Night, our sister show, feel like they won't need it. Let's hear from Swipa again, along with Danny Cunningham.
I think we figured out who won the NBA title today. Like I kind of went into game 7 thinking whoever wins this game is probably going to win the title, even if they have to go into the series on shortened rest. I think they're going to be the team that wins the title.
Yeah, I mean, I had OKC winning the title before the playoffs started. I said that the best option for beating them would be Denver because of how Denver would force them to play. And it was right. I don't think Minnesota have enough. I think they're going to struggle versus OKC. And I think OKC, they see the Pacers or they see the Knicks in the finals. That probably could be an even easier series for them than playing versus the Wolves as well. So all the way around, I think the red carpet's kind of laid out for OKC the rest of the way.
All right, Matt, Haize, this is your chance to start a cross-show rivalry. Haize, is it really going to be that much of a breeze for OKC the rest of the way? What is there a counter-argument here?
Yeah, I think the counter-argument is look at the way that this playoffs has gone. Has anybody predicted any of this? No, you can't assume anything. And I'll tell you this, as long as Anthony Edwards is on the court, he has the chance to be the best player in any series. I've just seen that much from him. You have Julius Randle playing the way that he is. I think that Rudy Gobert has also played with more toughness that we've seen this time. So while the OKC Thunder are favored, and they should be favored, and they probably have the better chance, I'm not going to just assume that that's going to be the way that is going to go. This has been a crazy playoffs, and I'm going to give Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves a chance. I think that this series goes 6 games at minimum, and and keep a lookout after that.
There's always plot twists, man. There's always plot twists. Why are we writing this stuff? Swipa also predicted the Nuggets would beat that Thunder team, so he wants credit for both sides. Well, I said the Thunder would win. But if the Nuggets had won game 7, well, I said the Nuggets would win. I mean, I appreciate it from my guy. He's covering all bases there, but sorry, man. No, I'm not falling for it. No, look, I think Minnesota's live in this series. They split the season series with OKC. They've got the size. They've got the defense. They've got the depth. The Nuggets put on a phenomenal performance, but they shouldn't have even been in that series. OKC's probably going to have learned something from that matchup and how to kind of combat certain things. But also, the Wolves are a lot more balanced. They've got a lot more guys that can contribute, and Julius Randle's playing awesome. Now, if that dries up now and he turns back into playoff Julius Randle, sure, they can roll. But I'm not going to rule it out. I just simply refuse to believe that this is going to be as simple as everyone makes it out to be. That is not how the NBA has worked in recent years.
So I'll point out that both of you mentioned the Wolves there, but no mention of who they could face out of the East if they get by the Wolves. So that was part of his argument that if they do get to the finals, that will be a cakewalk. Are you in agreement there, Matt?
Yeah, I think Wolves Thunder is the finals, because if you really look at it over the course of the season, guess which team was top 5 in both offense and defense for long stretches? It was not the Denver Nuggets with that 18th ranked defense, 23rd ranked defense. I'm sorry. It was Minnesota. Minnesota is a much more balanced team. They've been great pretty much all year. They lost a bunch of clutch games, which they're not doing anymore. I like Minnesota a lot more than I like Denver. I think they're a lot closer. But as far as the East goes, look, I love the Pacers. I love this Pacers team. The Knicks are fine. I love this Pacers team, but OKC is a different animal. We've known all year the West was tougher. I thought the Celtics or Cavs could beat OKC. I got no hope for Indiana or New York to get past the Thunder if they make it to the finals.
Haize?
Yeah. I think the champions coming out the West. I know I just said things have gone unexpectedly, and maybe they do again. But it just feels like that this is either team coming out the West is going to have such an advantage over either Eastern Conference team, which I would love to see the Knicks versus Minnesota, though, by the way. Love to see.
I think you guys are counting out the Eastern Conference a little too soon. Pacers, Knicks, they are both growing teams. We may talk about it a little bit later in the show, and if we don't, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Both of these teams are getting better and better as the playoffs continue. Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. We've got much more ahead on this edition of Locked On NBA. Coming up, Giannis Antetokounmpo is set to meet with Bucks brass on the future for Giannis in Milwaukee. Is he a lock to stay? Or should teams like the Houston Rockets be chomping at the bit? We'll have all that ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's edition of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It is your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center with all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so that you can go beyond just managing your money and start actually building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on streaming services. Spoiler alert, it was a lot. Now I budget smarter and I save more. And the best part is I don't have to use multiple apps. I just use Monarch to check my finances, track my spending, and plan out my long-term goals. It's saving me money and saving me time. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. According to a report from Chris Haize, Giannis Antetokounmpo and reps from the Milwaukee Bucks are set to meet this week to discuss the former's future with the latter. Haize, if you are John Horst, if you're the general manager of the Milwaukee Bucks, what is the centerpiece of your pitch to Giannis Antetokounmpo to stay?
Don't you remember the good times? Don't you remember the times of just walking through the city streets? No, all jokes aside, if my pitch is going to be basically that we're ready to clear it all out. Everything is on the table for us to be able to build another championship team around you. There's no expense that we would spare, meaning that we already traded Middleton, who was a guy that's been here for a long time. So I think that shows that our willingness to move off of pieces, and we're going to try to do everything that we can in our power. Draft picks, whatever we have to offer, we're going to try to make this happen. I think that's really the only play that you can make on top of, the fact that you've done it before. It took a lot, but you won a title there before, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to win another one.
Yeah, I think Haize is on point here with we've done it, right? We fell short in 19 and 20. We traded Eric Bledsoe for Drew Holiday. We won a title. We fell short in 2022. We traded for Damian Lillard and we fired Mike Budenholzer. We replaced it with a coach that you wanted, it's totally fine. It wasn't your fault that Adrian Griffin was one of the worst hires that we've ever seen in NBA history. We replaced it with a championship coach in Doc Rivers. And we're willing to do whatever it takes. Like we've shown over and over again that we have done what it takes to build a championship team around you, and we will continue to do that. We are not going to take for granted how great you are, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. I just don't know what those things are realistically.
Do they just show him Kyle Kuzma boarding a plane out of Milwaukee? Do they just show him a video? So you just laid out your best pitch. Do either of you think that pitch is good enough to retain the services of Giannis, or is this a lost cause?
I mean, I think along with the loyalty stuff, I think so. I think a part of the pitch should probably also be like, look, you can be one of these guys that plays. You can be KD. You can be one of these guys that plays for multiple franchises. Kevin Garnett's a legend in Boston, but he's not as much of a legend in Minnesota as guys that are going to stay there forever are going to be. Or you could be the guy with the statue out front. You can be the name when we talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that's got to be part of that conversation. If I'm Giannis, though, I'm just looking at it and being like, how are you willing to get rid of Doc Rivers? Are you willing to move off all this money? How are you going to get there? Tell me who you're going to what the plan is here. Tell me what you think you can actually get. What's the type of team that you want to build around me? These are the type of questions I'd be asking if I was Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, other than if it wasn't for Giannis and his loyalty to the Milwaukee Bucks, I would probably say that no pitch that the Bucks, realistically, at least I think, that could put up would keep him in Milwaukee. But he is loyal to that fan base. He's loyal to that franchise, and that may give him the leg up. But if you're talking about the best option to win more titles before your time to hang it up is done, I personally just don't see that being in Milwaukee.
Well, Camille
Haize,
Davis.
Would you make it,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Would you make it? I would do this. I don't know if Giannis would, but would you make it it's got to be Doc or me?
Yeah, I think that would be the start of it for sure.
Well, Camille Davis has been making the rounds on the Locked On list of Giannis suitors. Here she is with Locked On Rockets host Jackson Gatlin, who says the picks really aren't the issue in a potential deal. It's what young players Houston would be willing to give up.
Şengün is probably the headliner of the deal. Probably one other young guy included in there. Maybe two, but if there is two, that second one is just going to be Cam Whitmore as like a throw-in, and then some of those picks coming back. And then the question kind of then becomes, right, how does that package stack up compared to some of what other teams out there are going to be able to offer?
I think you get a more proven entity right away, right? With Şengün, he's already shown like, I'm an all-star, what I can do here. The growth that he's shown during his time in the NBA has been really cool to see as well. So like, you have something that you know is like, okay, we know what this entity is. You have some good draft picks, especially if that Phoenix Suns pick is involved in there. But it's like if Amen Thompson isn't the headliner player for GM Camille here, I'd be like, that doesn't move me as much.
All right, Matt, what do you think about GM Camille? Is she on the right track here? If Giannis does ask for a trade, do the Rockets really have the assets and more to the point, the willingness to give up some of those major assets to actually get a deal done here?
I think so, because he's more in line with where their roster is at. Like, they've been hesitant to add a guy like KD that's over 35, but Giannis is 30, and that's just like a different kind of conversation. He's not necessarily in line with those younger guys, but there's not really a star that's available that you're going to be able to get that's like 25. There's not that guy. They're looking for like a Shea, and there's that whole point with Shea was not Shea when they traded for him. So you got to be able to kind of navigate that landscape, I think, as well. Haize, my question for you is, would you rather have Şengün, a few of the Phoenix picks, and Jabari Smith Jr., or would you rather have Dylan Harper and whatever else the Spurs throw in, or would you rather have the third pick and Paul George?
See, for me, those Phoenix picks, it depends on how much you value those picks, because those picks could be really good for a while if you don't see the Phoenix Suns turning that around. So to be able to already get a proven commodity in Şengün, I don't know, are they going to give up Şengün and Jabari? Because are they going to want to keep Jabari to be their new starting center? Regardless, if you get Şengün, another young pick, whether it be Green or whoever else, and the Phoenix picks, that's probably where I'm personally leaning, just because I see those Phoenix picks being, those are what can help sustain this rebuild for the next 2 or 3 years on top of everything else.
I think it's going to be hard to get a deal done if you're like, we're not trading Amen Thompson. And then they're like, sure. Well, okay, but how about Şengün? And they're like, we're not trading Şengün. You run into this problem, and this is a thing that I think happens way more than people realize. Teams will more willingly trade with a team that is willing to give up everything that they have rather than these teams that have more but are like, I'm not giving you this, that, or the other. When you start with those restrictions, these teams feel like they're trying to get hardballed, and they do not respond well to that. You have to be like, look, amends off the table, but everything else we're willing to talk about. We won't say yes to it, but we're willing to talk about it. You can't get Jalen and Şengün and Jabari, but you can get 2. And that, like, if you start the conversation that way, I think you can head in the right direction.
Or is that because Horst has to go back to the fan base and say, look, whatever deal we did, we got everything. We didn't get half of everything. We got everything.
I mean, I just think that these negotiations are all about trust. That's why you see the same teams doing the same deals with the same other franchises over and over and over again, is there's these relationships where you feel like you can trust each other. When Dennis Lindsey was running the Jazz and Daryl Morey was running the Rockets, they would have never traded with each other because those two had legitimate distaste for one another. So, like, these are the things that complicate things is, you know, Raphael Stone is going to have to go into these conversations with Horst and be like, we want to get a deal done. We think we can get something where both of us win. We're willing to be open on everything that's not Amen Thompson. Everything else we can at least talk about. And if you open up that way, you're in a better spot. This was Miami's mistake, is because Miami media was like, they're not going to give him this, and they're not going to give him this. They're just going to get Giannis for Tyler Hero and trash. And it, like, you poison the well. You got to manage this stuff better, not only with the other franchises front office, but also with the agents involved too.
Haize, my only advice to John Horst is that whatever you do, if you trade Giannis, have a great answer to the question, why did you do this? Because Nico Harrison did not, and we all saw what resulted from that. Just really quickly, if Giannis stays for another year in Milwaukee, if they're somehow able to convince him, hey, just wait. Let's try to figure this out. Just wait. What ripple effects would that have on the rest of the offseason? Like, what's the one thing that you see going, okay, well, if Giannis stays, that means Team X might have to do Y. Haize?
I don't know if it really changes much, to be 100% honest with you. Giannis stays in the East. Like, I think you look at that and you, like, with everything that's going on in the Eastern Conference right now, Giannis stays in Milwaukee. I don't think any teams look at it and saying, oh, my God, we got to make a big change to what we're doing here.
Giannis, no Dame. Celtics, no Tatum. What does the top of the East look like? Like, Cavs again? Pacers? Yeah. Knicks? Are the Knicks going to run the East with the squad that was down 23 times to the Celtics? We're in a weird era, Doug. We're in a weird era.
I think it probably pushes the Sixers even to be even more urgent, right, about moving that third pick. I think that they were already in compete mode before everything fell apart. True. I think this could push them even further. We'll see. Sure. Well,
that one will work out differently this time. No, don't worry about it, Charlie Brown. Kick the football.
Well, listen, I think almost every team has to feel hopeful about becoming the next NBA champ because that's all we're getting right now. Our new NBA champs. The NBA era of parity is here. It's here to stay, it seems like. Coming up on Locked On NBA, I will ask Matt and Haize if that's actually good for the league and good for fans. Stick with us. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make sure you're checking out Locked On NBA Game Night. It's every game, every night on this feed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. These NBA playoffs have been unpredictable. They have been chaotic. But after the dust settled on the second round, we are certain about one thing, and that is that our next NBA champion will be the 7th different team in as many years. No reigning champion has even made it back to the conference finals the next season since 2019. Matt, you were desperate to have a Big C conversation about what this all means for the league. So what do you think? Is this good for the league? Is it good for fans?
I think it's good for the league. I think that there was a palpable frustration from a lot of the fan bases and the new ownership that they never got a chance to compete. I know a program director for a major sports radio station in the country, and they did polling on like some public opinion market research on why do you like this sport versus this other one. And the negative perception of the NBA was my team doesn't have a chance to win. And I think that really permeated. And now you can't feel like that. Now it does feel like, hey, look, the Pacers right now are 8 wins away from their first NBA title. They won NBA titles. The Knicks are 8 wins away from their first title since the 70s. The Thunder are 8 wins away from their first title. No, the Sonics titles do not count. Like, you have these opportunities. Wolves too are for their first title. You have these opportunities for these new things. But the problem, I think, Haize, is a lot of fans specifically like the NBA because they like dynasties. They love the Jordan Bulls. They love the Kobe Lakers. They love these teams that rattled off this dominance. They love the Warriors in the 2010s. They want to see real greatness and sustain. Now, that stuff is nails on a chalkboard to me personally, because I think everybody deserves to be happy. Like, I am definitely a participation trophy dude, where I want every fan base to actually have some moment of happiness, except for the Sixers fans. Everybody else needs to have this opportunity of happiness. But I think that's the tension here, is lifelong NBA fans liked how it was, and this is very different. But I think this has a chance to attract more maybe new fans, because the NFL doesn't have this conversation. The NFL, like, everyone loves that the teams have a shot here. So I'm curious from you, as both a Bulls fan with all that success and a Bears fan with, the last 35, 40 years or so, I'm curious where you come down on this with the comparison.
I think it comes I think not only do fans love to see the dynasty built, they also want to be the team to take that down, right? They love the hate aspect of seeing a team be dominant for so long. It breeds a interest there as well. Now, I do think for more of the casual fans, seeing a different team win the NBA title every single year is probably more interesting there from a standpoint of people who only come to watch playoff basketball. They watch the playoffs, they watch the finals, and that may be the only basketball they really watch in every year. Maybe it's a little bit more interesting for them, but I think you want to see somebody repeat, even if it's not the 3 championships in 4 or 5 years. Maybe it is a back-to-back champion, and then they don't get back there. So it's interesting that it's like between the two, because in football, I love the fact that you don't see a lot of repeat champions. It is there, but then you still have the Kansas City Chiefs, who've been dominant for years, right? So I think it's somewhere down the middle, and I think fans, for the most part, that as long as the sport is good, as long as the basketball is good, they're going to complain one way or another. So, I think it's going to be all right either way.
The casual fans that don't, there's casual fans that show up once a year, and that's bad for them, because they're going to be like, I don't know these guys. Where's Steph at? I want Steph. Where's Steph? Make the shooty hoops. But then you got also casual fans that can be converted into actual hardcore fans that are like, oh, this is cool. Like, my team actually has a chance to win now. This is great. So it's that conversion, I think, that's the difference here. And this is always the tension, is ESPN wants the most casual people that know who these people are to tune in. And the league wants people converted from casual fans into hardcore fans, because that's better for their overall product, I think, Doug.
Yeah, I think the issue for the NBA, I think there's 2 issues. I think the first issue, speaking to what you just said there, Matt, and to what you said, Haize, about the parity being popular in the NFL. I think parity is popular in the NFL because stories are told about nearly all of the teams, and they're more accessible to regional audiences, whereas in the NBA, they are not, because these teams are trapped. Well, a lot of these teams aren't given national media attention, and they're trapped on regional sports networks that are hard to access. So I think the NBA has to figure out that problem so that when the Pacers make it to the NBA Finals, if they make it to the NBA Finals, more people, more casual fans, a national audience understands what makes that team great and the personalities and the stars that drive those teams.
I'm really going to be fascinated when we get the schedule released for next season. NBC is making a big show of, we're bringing basketball back. Like, we're serious about the sport. And I'm just very curious to see whether or not they fall into the same trap of LA's the biggest market, so we're just going to ask for the Lakers 1,700 times. Or if NBC is like, no, like, we broadcast the good teams, like the teams that are good. Like, if they are the team that comes in next season is like, well, no, OKC is the best team in the league. Why would we not want them on our programming? They're the best team. That's good sports. I'm really curious to see if that happens, because I don't mean to scapegoat ESPN here. But yes, I do. I think that they're a huge part of this entire problem, and they've been a huge part of this problem getting worse over the last decade.
Well, I think the NBA chasing after TV money as well, at the expense, I think, of hollowing out fan bases, and the NBA and the teams, that took the bags of cash from the regional sports networks. I think everyone has a part to play in that somewhat. The second issue for me, Haize, is that where does the NBA parity come from? Because if it comes from the CBA and the second apron and more star players spread out among more teams, thumbs up. I think that's great. If it's coming from an increase of star player injuries in the playoffs, that to me is not great, because I think that fans did love dynasties. I do have a question about newer fans, Gen Z fans, if they really love dynasties or if they just love to watch superstars play. And if those superstars aren't playing, it doesn't matter if the NBA has parity or not. It's not going to be good television.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think if you're spreading the stars out, then that makes every team interesting. And if it's coming from people getting hurt, then you're not really getting there. You're actually letting down some fan bases in that time period, and letting down the casual fans that turn on the playoffs to see these stars play. So that's an amazing point there. And we'll see as the second tax apron continues to be a thing and teams avoidance of that, because we could see teams like the Boston Celtics, of course, the Phoenix Suns, these teams that are going to be trying to get back under that second tax apron, and then the ramifications that has on other teams and who absorbs those stars going forward.
We got to get everybody together that's in like online discourse, everybody with an audience of any significant size. We got to get everybody together this summer and have them agree on a number of games for the schedule, and then the kind of format that we should have for the playoffs. If it's 2 days on, one day play, it's time for us to get the NBA to be a better product, because I think the Tatum injury more than anything to me proves that you've got to change this. If Tatum, the Iron Man, can't hold up, the schedule's too dense, period, and dot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yet I think the product is healthy. I mean, when you look at these teams that we're going to start previewing tomorrow in New York, Indiana, Minnesota, and OKC, lots of interesting storylines, lots of fun things to watch, and a lot of different kinds of basketball. So that's the good news. And hopefully the NBA, as you were talking about with NBA on NBC, hopefully they start responding by putting that out there to more of a national audience, because shows like what we're doing here and a lot of other podcasts, we shine the lights on those things. We're trying to keep that light lit, but if it's going to be difficult if it's not happening on the biggest stages. So
there's also the fact that the Lakers got Luka Doncic for nothing and are probably going to put pieces around him to win like 3 titles in 5 years, and then this will all be over. But for right now, it's a really interesting question.
Is Luka Doncic coming for the NBA of the NBA's era of parity? Maybe we'll have that discussion on a future episode. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks to Matt and Haize for their expertise every single day. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On NBA Game Night. It's every game, every night when there is a game, unlike tonight, until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on this feed, on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. No basketball tonight? What are you doing to us, NBA? Well, in the meantime, be kind to each other. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.